Proving that late is better than never, it's happy hour. That's 5 p.m. Eastern time on a Tuesday. And that means it's happy hour, which means the two of us are sitting down for drinks, catching up, talking D&D, topic of the week, new stuff. I am one of the two hosts, Lantern Noir. I've been playing Dungeons & Dragons since 1979. And with me,
Graybeard of Graybeard Tavern, and I saw Star Wars and started playing D&D the same weekend when I was like 7.
wow, rub it in.
Yeah. It was the birth of nerddom.
Oh.
It was a holy day. So yeah, my parents were going through a horrible divorce, and my aunt thought that Star Wars would be a good distraction, and then my friend's oldest brother decided to run us through D&D. So that's how it all began.
Curiously, that's the same route most people come to find Rush.
Oh, me and Rush have a history. Anyway,
I think that's my favorite introduction of anybody ever. It was a Canadian sketch, and Geddy Lee comes out, and they go, "Oh my gosh, it's Geddy Lee, the lead singer of everybody's older brother's favorite band."
So, all right, here's the thing. My buddy Pat, his older brother loved Rush. And that guy was a beep and beep hole. Oh. And so I have always hated Rush until I was much, much older. And then I was like, okay, I can set this aside. This isn't, Pat's older bro. It's music. It's cool. I can deal. And then I didn't have an older brother. I had older cousins who they were all about Kiss. Kiss was their jam, man. So,
okay, I can see that. Kiss is if you're gonna have a jam, Kiss is a good jam to have. And also fairly timeless.
Yeah, coming off that 70s thing, the Kiss was big.
What was their reboot? They had a song that they did when they were doing one of their comebacks, and like the whole thing was premised, like the video was premised with them doing their pre-show makeup. With do you think we could ever perform without our makeup? And then like, no way, man. People come to see this, man. It's a show they come to see. And it was during that phase, like in the 80s or 90s, I think it was, where they had come back without the full makeup. They weren't doing the glam rock. They were just doing rock. Yeah. And it was so weird to see this like documentary style, which, I mean, I'm sure it was staged, but a little part of me wonders, like, wouldn't it be kind of funny if that wasn't?
Right. If that was just the way it was.
Yeah. So we do happy hour. If you are listening on the podcast, you can always watch us live at 5 p.m. thereabouts Eastern time on Tuesdays over at twitch.tv/Lantern Noir, where I play host, and you're always welcome to come by. Kibitz, join in the chat. You can also always leave us comments wherever you found this podcast, which is at this point everywhere except Apple Podcasts. I haven't quite gotten that process down yet. It's on my to-do list.
Fight your way in.
Yeah. Well, they've got a lot bigger process to get in. Spotify, piece of stinking cake. But as far as like Apple, it's a bunch of different hoops you got to jump through. Because, they want to make sure they got some good stuff.
Yeah.
So there's that. But, how's your gaming lately? The short form of it, perhaps?
Short form. So had I have daughters, and they, we have seen a lot of Toy Story and other such over the years, and there's the "I had a bad day," kind of song. So I had a rough weekend, but I had to leave one of my other campaigns, my streamed games, so that made me very, very sad. But we did continue on Saturday night with our Grognard campaign offline, and then I didn't do my show on Sunday. So really, the only gaming I did was Saturday night sci-fi, running a Powered by the Apocalypse game called Impulse Drive.
Ooh.
And we're all old school sci-fi nerds, so it was it's cute. And we decided to, I didn't know what the tone they wanted, and I kept poking at them for like a week before, and they never said anything. And then one of them wrote kind of a silly backstory, and I'm like, sold. Because I gave him a chart. It was like, Buck Godot, Zap Gun for Hire, forget what the next one was. Then it was like Firefly, Battlestar Galactica, Aliens. That was like the 5-star range of what we would have for our tone. And they decided that there is literally the, what is it called? It's the Monks of Cheddar, which is the Mystics Order. He's part of the Mystic Order of Cheddar, and they just this last week ran into a corporation called the Lovecraftians.
Ooh.
And it's craft cheese in the middle, so it's love craft is in cheese.
Oh God.
Yeah, it's on the other side. And so it has gone off the rails and gotten silly. So,
taken cheesy to a very literal level.
To a very literal level. I used to, speaking of cheesy, I used to be in, I used to run a Warhammer tournament, not 40K, Fantasy Battles. We used to run it every year. And I used to work in the restaurant business. So we used to get wheels of cheese. And when you buy a wheel of cheese, they give you stickers because they expect you to chop it and package it and wrap it and all this jazz. Well, so I used to go around and distribute cheese stickers on cheesy armies. I would just like tag, stick a sticker somewhere, it'd say like Limburger or Cheddar or whatever. Because, well, Warhammer. Yeah, if you steal a man's wallet, he's poor for a day. If you introduce a man to Warhammer, he's poor for forever.
Oh, yeah. Well, it sounds like an interesting balance because I had my one shot Saturday night. We did my goal was, I've been doing my main Sunday night campaign, and I thought, okay, I need a week off, A, to recharge my batteries, B, to write, because I had no clue what was going to happen in the third story arc. So I said, I need a week off. And I said, okay, I'm going to do a one shot. I'm just going to take a couple of pirates, throw them into town, throw a girl in trouble at them, and then watch the wackiness ensue. That's all the planning I did, really. I planned a couple of combat encounters, just so I was ready to go. And so we were supposed to play that on Sunday, and then all kinds of stuff happened because it was Valentine's Day. And so we put it off till Saturday, which would be, this past Saturday. And everyone had such a great time, even though it was like really hard to kind of lock them down to any D&D in the first place. They're like, well, we have to do this again. We're not done. This isn't a one shot. This is like a pilot episode.
Right.
And I'm like, no, this is really a one shot. I didn't plan to go on. I didn't write any extensive story. There's like no, like I literally they'd say, oh, and so what is your name? And I'm like, hold on while I hit random name generator. Why? This man's name is Eric. And I'm just like seriously spamming the generators for names and stuff. Because I'm like, oh, we need to know who the captain is. Like, so do I. Ooh, it's Captain Brightheart. All right, cool. And just like, literally pulling crap out in order to be sure something happened. But they had such a great time. And then my Sunday night game went really well. And I had to let a player know after the fact, because usually they know that campaigns last about 5 game sessions. He's like, I don't even know what the heck we're doing or how we're going to do it in 5 sessions.
Right.
And I'm like, that's because this one is sandbox. You're in town. Good luck.
Right.
And they actually ended their night in a brothel.
Of course.
It was one of the only places they had been able to know for sure they would be safe in, because they inadvertently started a miniature gang war in a town where there is no law. Yeah. It's all gang managed. So it's all
like Blades in the Dark or Gangs of New York, that kind of.
I'm thinking, yeah, Gangs of New York is very much an inspiration for the way that the town is governed. This gang controls this area, this gang controls that area, this gang, and everyone knows where everyone controls.
Yeah.
And if anyone really wants to like push the envelope, there's a negotiation process to kind of, help mitigate unwanted casualties.
Yeah.
But yeah, there was very, very Gangs of New York inspired. I'm not gonna hide from that. So,
no, that's awesome.
Yep.
That's awesome.
And I'm still on track to start Candlekeep Mysteries. I'm in the process of reaching out to WotC right now to see if I can sneak the first 10 pages of Candlekeep early. Because our plan is to start on the 17th.
Yeah.
Even though it's St. Patrick's Day, I don't expect to be going out and performing because I'm not sure I'm ready to go into a pub.
Right.
And I have a feeling that there will be invitations to. And I'm like, I don't see myself feeling good about that.
No.
Even though I'll have both my vaccine doses, I'm like, I'll take the kids to dance at nursing homes and at schools and stuff, but I don't want to go into a pub.
Yeah, don't blame you. Not yet.
Yeah.
It's a little early.
Well, and even the outdoor in the big tent, I'm like, that's still technically indoors.
Yeah. Yeah, anyway, yeah. We'll talk COVID some other time because that's
But we're slated to start on St. Patrick's Day, and it releases on the 16th. So I'll have less than 24 hours to read the entire first adventure and be ready to run it. So I'm hoping somebody lets me sneak the first 20 pages early.
Yeah.
So I can have an extra day or two to prep.
Yeah. I mean, that's very feasible. So on Sundays, I play with the oldest house elf here, D&D. And lately, I have just been like, crack the knuckles, go to the Google machine, and like, free short adventures D&D 5e, and then see what pops up. And the last 2 weeks have just been fabulous. Couple page adventures. They're gorgeous, and I'll try to give them some shout outs on Twitter because they were just great. One was apple pies. Some goblins took over an apple pie bourbon. Apple pie factory, and there was like I said, the cranky old apple tree, the angry orchard apple tree was there, and there were goblins selling us and whatnot. And then this past week there was a transmogrified wizard who had been turned into a sheep, very, very World of Warcraft, thing. So he was turned into a sheep, and she had to work to get them back. And there was a big pun at the end, and it was just a silly adventure, but it was just perfect for, a solo player, a single player and DM thing.
Those are fun. And when you come across those are just so great to find. So speaking of great finds, I just threw the link in Discord. If you haven't seen it, you need to open it now. I'm going to put the visual up here over the chat window for a moment.
Ooh.
But this was released today. I'm going to have to shrink it down just a little bit. There we go.
Okay.
Yeah, but that's coming up is the official release event. Van Richten's Guide to Ravenloft is officially coming May 18. They're going to make us wait. Like, I appreciate a little bit of teasing, but I'm like, I don't want to wait. I want this now.
Well, and that too is the press the pre-order button.
Oh yeah,
the shiny pre-order. I mean, they had me on Candlekeep. I was like, okay, I don't know anything about this, but I'm gonna click it because I end up getting all the books anyway. So I'm like, pre-order, okay, pre-ordered, and and then of course my my brick and mortar store, literally there's a thing in my so they're a comic book store and a game store and memorabilia, statues, and all sorts of t-shirts and all that jazz. Okay. So yeah, So they literally have, you know, how, because they have like pre-order stuff and
Mhm.
things for, you know, this issue and that issue. Literally, mine says any D&D book that has a shiny quote unquote cover. So all the alternate cover books that come out, they just buy one for me because they know
They
I'll
know.
roll in. I'll just, and then I usually end up getting another copy anyway, and then I buy it on D&D Beyond. I'm so stupid.
I might have to buy the hard copy because I do have a friend who owns a store that I'm going
Hmm.
to be calling probably tonight. As I wasn't planning on buying both hard and digital copies,
Mm-hmm.
but if he thinks he can get it in my hands a couple of days early on the down low, I will buy the
Yes.
physical copy,
Right. Right.
and then offer him some free advertising,
Yeah.
without saying because I got this early, but
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
because that caused a small. I worked in a video store, and there was a local radio personality that used to come through.
Yeah.
Okay, now for the kids, that's like imagine Netflix, but you have to go to the store and check the movie out, and then you could stream it at home. Just you know, context for everybody here.
My brother worked in a video store, and he worked in the video store, and the video store was connected to a tanning salon, and it was like literally open. You would be shopping videos, and you could just walk through an archway into the
And you're
into the
tanning.
tanning salon. And he one time said to the young lady working at the tanning salon, he said, yeah, just, you know, fax it, to kind of be like a joke. And she's like, what's a fax? And so hence, yes,
Oh,
what's a video store? You might have to tell
I have to
people,
look it
you
up.
know.
Yeah, but the we used to let one of the local radio personalities check out the store only copies of not yet released movies.
Right,
Because we
right,
would get advanced copies so that the owner could watch it and go, oh, yeah, this is one I want to have in my store.
right.
Well, he'd give him this radio personality, and there was one weekend he's like, oh my God, I just saw this movie. It was the best movie ever. It's going to be released on video in a couple weeks. I go to this little store over in
Oh
Birmingham. I know
no.
the owner. He hooks me up with all the advanced copies so I get a chance to see these ahead of time. And it was like, oh, that was not good. That was not
And
good.
never again.
Nope, 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 nope. Of course, back then, we had just upgraded the computer system from DOS-based to a Windows 3.4 version. And I had to manually transfer all of our data, all of our files for all the database entries for
Right.
all of the movies. I mean, I was going out every night and taking an armload of movies up to the counter and entering them manually into the computer because that's where we were tech-wise. So, perspective and a bit of an age thing there. But
Yeah.
looking at this, it looks like it's going to have some really good stuff in it. What I'm the most curious about is what they say in here for the DMs. There's going to be another there's a story hooks, options, customizations, and a brand new haunted adventure.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
Like,
that's
so do you think you're gonna then put that into said Ravenloft home situation, or it depends?
it depends on where my players are and how long it takes for them to solve the problems of Storm's End, which is the town they're in now, because I don't think they're still going to be in Storm's End in May.
Right.
And my plan for my game right now, I'm really ready to run a Curse of Strahd game,
Right.
and I'm really thinking this group is going to, when they finish up in this town, a proper okay. We've been dealing with all this undead ookiness in this realm beyond the mists. It's time to go deal with the mists,
Yeah.
and that means going after Strahd himself.
Nice.
So they might already be on their way to deal with Strahd when this finally lands. So I might have to do a different, although maybe my Candlekeep Mysteries group will be finished with all the Candlekeep Mysteries, and we can just
Bloop.
go into this. So, but it looks like it's got some neat stuff. The other thing I think is interesting, and I can't wait to watch the internet lose its mind as they keep drip, because you know what they're going to do. They're going to drip details.
Yeah.
And I'm wondering if we're going to have another moment like we had with the wheelchairs and the wheelchair ramps in Candlekeep,
Yeah.
because they've rewritten the Bohemian people, which are very Roma inspired, called the Vistani. Vistani?
Yeah. In Vistani. Yeah.
Yeah, that's right. They do say in here that they've rewritten them.
Mm.
Or rather, hang on, what's the exact phrasing they use behind it? I'm trying to find it in here. Character lineages, dark gifts, everything they need, yada yada yada. It might have been in the official, because I'm on the D&D Beyond page. It might have
Yeah.
been on the Wizards of the Coast page. So I'll pop over there real quick and see if I can find it. But they say they've reworked it. And
Right.
I'm wondering if there's going to be some interesting drama, because I'm willing to bet they're gonna let the new rules sneak out.
Well, then there was the that the late into the original release there was some hiccups and people had issue with and whatnot with the Vistani already. So, I'm ready to see what they did with it. Supposedly, when they put out the box set, they addressed that situation.
Mm-hmm.
So that's cool. And then we'll see again what they come up with here. Yeah, just looking down the thing, things I like: subclasses, new lineages, new backgrounds.
Mm-hmm.
I have been a custom background guy from like, oh gosh, probably my second or third character in D&D 5e. I pretty much always ask the dungeon master, can I make a custom background? And they're like, well, as long as you follow the blah blah blah, two of these, one of those, and you pick a background story that is already out there, a background ability that's already out there, and I love that. It's either that or usually I love Urban Bounty Hunter. That's one of my absolute favorite backgrounds.
We have an Urban Ranger right now in my Sunday game. The alternate cover art is gorgeous.
Yeah?
Yeah. Hang on. I'll throw it to you in Discord if you haven't seen it yet.
Okay.
Copy image address. I'll throw it over to you because it's up on the stream now.
Mm-hmm.
It is I'm thinking that's Esmeralda.
Yeah, that's what it looks like to me.
She is just looking like she is going to go kick some serious vampire ass.
Yeah. Since someone, it's called Richtoven's, what is it? Guide to Ravenloft.
Guide to Ravenloft. Yep.
So I played in a Ravenloft campaign as a guest character, and he was Richtoven's assistant apprentice and stuff, and that was a good time. I don't have the hat and reach anymore, but he was the kind of had that little bit of a German Romanian accent, and he had the little blue glasses, and I had a hat that had a bunch of charms and baubles on it, holy symbols. And that was a good time. I appreciated playing that. Well, what comes out of that is that you can find the old, I think it was second edition Richtoven's Guide to Ravenloft in PDF form. It's out on the net there. Pretty quickly and easily. So if you kind of want to look up old school way it was written, that's like I said, poke around out there, you can find it and see it. Oh man, sorry.
It's only Tuesday.
Yeah, we're coming off a rough weekend, heading into a week is always a thing. But and then add bourbon, yeah. So he's a good character. I enjoy the lore with him and stuff. So hopefully this is written with that same kind of Volo's Guide kind of fun little snippets and everything else if we're lucky.
I just hope they don't bury the lore, the rules, I should say, and the lore bullet points too deep in the theme. Because that's one of my complaints with some source books, is that it becomes almost too hard to use them because everything is so, you have to read it cover to cover to really understand everything.
Yeah.
World of Darkness, I think, suffered a lot from that with some of their splat books, where it's like, just give me the breakdown of what you want me to know about Toreadors. Don't make me try to dissect 6 pages of prose
Right.
about this interaction between two Toreadors. Just tell me, look, here's how this works. This person does this person does this.
dot with how to do it.
Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah. This is the way they are. This is what they primarily negotiate around. And then go play with it, because I'm a big fan of, like, give me some frameworks, let me adapt it to my group or to my style of running a game, and then have my own fun.
Yeah. Yeah.
But,
All Warhammer and Warhammer 40K stuff, pretty much to the like 4th or 5th edition, was they embedded the rules in the flavor text, and so everybody's handbooks had highlighter. Everybody had highlighter because you had to, you know what I mean? You had to suss out the dig and poke and cast ancient ruins to figure out what exactly the rules were.
I mean,
So
I love depth. I love the lore. And we had the same problem when we were running our live action game group, our LARP, is one of the people running it really desperately wanted to have a rule book that didn't read like a rule book. And I'm like, that sounds great, but we have to have a rule book. Like, I love the idea of, because his vision, because I was in charge at the time of, I had taken over writing for, what do we call them? We had our own Bohemian people, Roma inspired character group, and I can't remember what we called them. But I had taken over some of the writing behind it, and I said, here are the rules behind them. And he said, well, yeah, that's great, but I want like some short stories rather than rules. I want people to be able to read the story and understand. And I'm like, that's great, but that's like, how do you ask a game master to make a ruling based on 2 people's read of a short story? Like, the goal of a rule book is to set up some, rules.
Right. Right. Yeah, and again, it's one thing, have your fluff and then your crunch, or have your crunch and then your fluff. It's 2 great tastes that don't taste great together. It's just yeah, they just don't go together.
Yeah.
It's so much more straightforward, and it also, because it's a rule book, you gotta take that guesswork out, man. You cannot have an interpretation if you want it to go anywhere.
Yeah, but that was today's big news. They teased it last night. There was gossip this morning that Amazon screwed it up.
They always do.
Well, the gossip was that the pictures leaked on Amazon before the WotC page showed anything. And so I don't know, like, are we talking, I haven't dug enough to see if it was like a matter of hours or a matter of days or something.
What usually happens is it hits Amazon at EST. It hits Amazon. Then 3 hours later, WotC releases it because they're on like California time, PST, and they keep doing it. Amazon keeps doing it to WotC that way. So you get a sneak peek like 3 hours before the real reveal. Though that's about all I've heard, was that one of the articles that released, with it, had a few things wrong.
Ooh.
And I can't remember what it was. It was like, they said it was there was 2 somethings, and there's actually 3, and then there's like, they said like there's 30 realms of dread or something.
Yeah, the 30 was, I remember seeing 30 realms of dread in one of the releases.
Yeah.
That seems like a lot.
Yes, it does. Unless it's like the old Greyhawk books, and it's just, bloop, 4 little lines, maybe 1 stat block or something, and then 4, or 2 paragraphs in a stat block.
I could see that though, and then, like, here are all the different things you might here's all the different things you might consider as Gothic horror. This realm where this is going on, this realm where this is going on, this where this is going on, so that you have like that, pick your poison sort of thing.
Right.
Maybe you don't want one vampire that oversees everything. You want to do something different. And here's your
Right.
chance to go off and do that.
Yeah. Well, and two, like I said, if you have 30 of them and they have a page each, that's not overwhelming or too much to think of putting in a book.
Well, for a $50 source book, this thing better be chock full of stuff I'm going to use.
Right.
50 bucks is a little steep for me for a couple of backgrounds.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, it's particularly like we were saying when you end up buying it like 3 times.
Mm-hmm.
So at least they're like 26, 27 if you pre-order, and like 30 for D&D Beyond, where then they're 50 for hardcover, and it's just like, oh my goodness.
Well, no, to be honest, if it was $100 for D&D Beyond, I'd probably still pay it, because as much as I like my hard copy books, I really can't put a price tag on just the ease of use.
Right.
Searchable databases, throwing everything out to me. I had a guy who'd never played a tabletop RPG before make a pretty decent paladin on his own using D&D Beyond. The only twist, in hindsight, and having watched him play his character, I really shouldn't have let him play a paladin. He and his god need to have a conversation at our next session, because he's a little too comfortable watching people murder each other over gang territory. There's got to be a little bit of a... You're supposed to protect the living, and that means from each other.
But who am I to judge?
You're a paladin of Ravenkind. That's who you are.
Oh, yes. Well, I guess let's stop there.
Yeah. You don't need to be like a constable or anything, but you should be a little less comfortable.
Yeah.
With people murdering each other in the street. I'm just saying. A little less comfortable.
So
with that.
With what do they give any indicate? I closed the link because I had too many windows. Did they say what the new lineages and or subclasses were going to be? Were they the ones from the UA that came out a while back?
The subclasses are going to be College of Spirits for bards and the Undead Pact for warlocks.
Okay. Yep. They ran those through UA a while ago. I didn't even look at them. I've been so out of the loop, horribly out of the loop for so long. Pretty much everything from just before Tasha's on, I am behind the 8 ball on that. I've had my brain elsewhere.
No, I'll just be excited to find it all, because I'm going to be relatively clean going into all of it.
Yeah.
So lots of good stuff going on there. But yeah, it looks like it should be pretty neat when we finally get it.
Did it say the lineages?
They said this is new, and they provided 3 examples: the Dhampir, Hexblood, and Reborn.
I don't remember those from a UA, so well, we'll see.
We'll have to see what they do. Dark gifts for characters to flesh out your place among the domains of dread. This article does say the 30 new and familiar domains of dread, so I'm willing to bet that might be like that one page.
Yeah.
Here's what's going on with this one.
Yep.
New creatures like carrionettes and vampiric mind flayers.
Ooh.
So you'll have to see what comes with. Feeling brave, you should also check out Curse of Strahd, Ghost of Saltmarsh, the Monster Manual. I kind of feel like if you're pitching Van Richten's Guide to Ravenloft to people, they probably already have the Monster Manual.
You might. The thing is it long gone are the days of walking into like a Barnes and Nobles and being like, ooh, that's a cool cover, for someone who's like, 13 or 14 and going, this is part of a game? Oh my God. I do. As is, was it tomorrow? Tomorrow, the oldest house elf has her second online D&D club at school session
Oh,
or
fun.
meeting. Yeah.
Fun.
Yeah, and I helped the younger house elf, her friend last school year. I helped them start their. She goes to a different school. I helped them start their club, their D&D club. I literally gave them like, like a gallon-sized baggie of dice. It's like there's like 12 sets of dice here. Go kids.
We tried to do that with our eldest, and we actually
Mm.
ran into trouble.
Mm.
What ended up happening is the school hadn't had one, and so he
Mm.
and his friends were meeting in the library every couple of days and
Yeah.
staying until they got kicked out of the library.
Ah.
And so I reached out to the school to say, hey, can we, because he was in 6th grade, I was like, can we maybe formalize this? And then that initiated a process, which it involved lots of paperwork. It involved finding a sponsor.
Right.
And the sponsor wasn't sure she was ready to take over. Like she said, oh, I'll take over running that. And then sat on it for 2 months.
Right.
Because she was trying to understand what it meant.
Right.
So she'd found a copy of the Dungeon Master's Guide and was
Yeah.
trying to understand it by reading it.
Oh goodness. Yeah.
And so after a while, I'm like, tell you what, here's what I did. I said, it turns out I'm running a session at the library on learning how to play Dungeons and Dragons. Why don't you come?
Yeah.
And, hang out with us while I'm doing this session for the library. And she said, oh, that's a great idea. What time? I said, I don't remember. And then I called the library and said, I need to run a session on Saturday about how to play Dungeons and Dragons. And it needs to be open to the public. And I need to be sure there's at least one open seat for it.
Right.
And I did this, and she actually came and she played with us and kind of got the gist of how role-playing games work.
Right.
Which was really kind of fun. We did kind of a neat little mini adventure and everything, and everyone had a good time. But then they finally got the club up and running like 2/3 of the way through the school year.
Yeah.
And it came with a $50 participation fee.
Oh. Ouch.
And I was like, I'm not sure how I feel about this.
Yeah.
And my son was like, I'm not sure I want to pay $50 to be part of this. I'm already playing D&D with my friends.
Right.
Why would I spend money on it at school? And when I reached out to the school, they said, well, we don't do volunteer sponsors. Every sponsor is paid. So we have to pay the sponsors. So there has to be there has to be a club fee.
Right.
And I went, that sucks.
Yeah. Yeah. We had none of that. It had to be the only thing is there has to be a teacher. So like there's a game club, and they meet now that they don't meet in person, because it used to be they would take and right after school for like an hour or two they would play board games or card games and all that. Well, now they meet online at like 3:00 or whatever, and in the afternoon hang out and play Among Us or whatever, the cutesy games that the Fall Guys, that kind of stuff. Well, that's the game club. Well, now they're going to have the actual D&D club. And it was funny because my daughter was helping the game club teacher put it together. And they found another teacher whose name is Mr. Sword. And he's been doing D&D for a long time.
You don't say.
Yeah. I mean, hello, I'm Mr. Battle Axe. You know anything about axes? No, why would I? No. So he's gonna DM for them, and then they actually, put out a letter and everything, and they've got a bunch of people, and there's a kid too who's like 16 or 17 who has DM'd before, so they've got a good player base and stuff. So we'll see how that all turns out. I'm hopeful for them. I hope it takes off.
Well, that should be fun, and that's the kind of thing where. If he does a good job and the numbers stay, sounds crazy, and the numbers stay small enough at first. Because the biggest thing that I've seen as an impediment to anyone learning Dungeons and Dragons and coming into it is coming in when a group is so big that the only people who get to do anything are the loud ones.
Yeah.
And it becomes a real challenge to try to get, every player at the table to feel invested. Yeah. And that's one, like when I was working at the youth center, it was really hard because they had so many kids who wanted to participate. And it was like, I can't run a game of Dungeons and Dragons that's interesting for the people at the table if we keep adding people to the table.
Right.
Then there was a wonderful evening where one young lady sat down and said, I want to play Dungeons and Dragons with everybody. And she'd never played before. And I went, yeah, sure, you can totally get in. We've got room. Let's get you going on a character. And, pull up on the laptop, get her on D&D Beyond. 45 minutes later, the whole group is waiting because we're trying to get her up and running. Everyone's kibitzing. We get her character made. We hit print. She goes and gets off the printer, sits down, goes, you know what? I actually think I'm more feeling like playing Smash Brothers tonight. Oh. And then walks away. And it's like, we started 45 minutes late to get you in.
Yeah.
And a little part of me was like, you brat. And the little part's like, well, kids. Mm-hmm. They're going to be kids.
Yep.
But that was a group where I turned somebody away at one point and said, I can't handle 10 people at the table.
Yeah.
And then my boss came and said, you need to figure out how to keep him involved.
Oh, like, yeah.
Well, that takes work to plan.
Mm-hmm.
That's going to be a little bit of a challenge. I don't know if I can do it this week. Well, you need to figure out how to do it this week. Yes, ma'am.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it was an interesting experience.
We started, and I know I've told this before, but we started a gamers guild at the university that me and my at the time girlfriend and now Tavern Sparrow, the missus, started. Well, the summer came and the population at our school went from 20,000 to 3,000. And our club went from like 40 to 60 people to 20 people. And
Ouch.
so I ended up running one D&D game for 19 people. And how I did it, and you got to remember this is 1990, 91 in there. The way I did it was I had them separate into factions, and we played like Game of Thrones.
Yep.
So each faction was in another room, and there would be someone at the table who would kind of be the coordinator, like for their faction, and then I would just go room to room coordinating the factions. And when there would be a war or whatever, or a fight between members, it was Romeo Juliet style. Okay, Mercutio, you get in here, and the Capulets and taka, and they would fight each other and stuff. It was fun and crazy, but I was like 20, and so
you have infinite energy when you're in your 20s.
Exactly. So
you've got the spirit for that. There was one guy in our college group, which is one of my favorite stories to tell about alignments of all things. He was running a game with 12 people that were split into two groups of 6, and they all had the same mission, which was to stop the end of the world. And so they split off into groups, and for the entire school year, so September till May, these groups were running 4 nights of the week. He was with at least one of the two groups. Yeah. And sometimes the groups subgrouped. So like the one group of 6 would split into 2 groups of 3, or 2 people would go off and have their own set of adventures one day of the week for like 4 weeks, and the other 4 would be doing something else. Or if somebody got slammed at class, it was like, okay, well, we're gonna let you and this person sit out for 4 weeks, and we're gonna keep doing this. And the whole thing accumulated to this moment where the last session of our regular weekly meetings for the campus game club, and half the people who showed up didn't even play their own games. They just came to watch, because this was it. Right. It was the end of the campaign these people had been playing in. And it had been this epic quest to find the sacrificial virgin who would then be fed this potion at this nexus of energy. And then this combination of magics and the location and her spirit would seal the rift between the worlds and stop the embodiment of evil passing into the physical realm and enslaving it.
Yeah.
And she drinks the potion. The players all look up at the heavens, and the heavens open anyways. Evil comes down and enslaves everyone.
Yeah, I
Oh,
well,
cute.
huh?
Thank you, sweetie. But it looks very cute. Thank you. Yeah, it turns out that on in somewhere around October, one of the players who had started the game with a helm of hide alignment had murdered two people in his group, replaced them with doppelgangers. Yes? Not until I'm upstairs, honey. Thank you. Um, and
Doppelganger
the
goodness.
doppelganger, they swore the players to secrecy, and that's how the campaign ended.
Nice.
And it was, on the one hand, I respect the, like, that was really cool and epic. But what ended up happening is the next September, that guy sits down and says, well, I'm looking to run another D&D game this year. And nobody played. Everyone kind of went, yeah, not interested. Because it was like if you laugh at like the fact that it worked, but on the other hand, it's like, man, I'm so glad I wasn't in that game.
Yeah.
I would have
Yeah.
been so pissed. Plus, there's a little bit of a, okay, you're evil, but are you evil stupid?
Right.
'Cause
Right.
I'm
Because
pretty sure you didn't get a good seat when this all went pear-shaped.
oh yeah, you're all like, well, of course, I let Cthulhu in, and you're the first one eaten because you opened the freaking door. You know, it's
Exactly.
yeah. Oh, I so for 2.5 years, 2.5 years, I ran an evil campaign, and with high school kids, and I was one of them. And so we ran this evil campaign, and everybody was evil except one player. One player was a druid, and he was true neutral because that's the way it was back in the old days. Druid, true neutral. Bah. Paladin, lawful good. Bah. You know, and so we played, 15 levels of characters. They had taken over countries. They had, marched armies. We played out these massive battles and stuff. They had taken all these lands, and they got on a boat, and they were out in the middle of the ocean, like 100 miles from nowhere. And they had been from day one. So for 2 years, every time, they didn't even say it anymore. They would just go, hey, here's your good berries. Everybody has the druid makes you a good berry. Next, we that's how they would eat. They didn't even think about it. And so they were on this ship. They were like 100 miles from shore. And the druid's like, oh, here's your good berry. Okay, everyone make a saving throw, because he had told me, that he was going to bad berry them. So they all had to save versus poison. And then he hit the deck of the ship with warp wood, then turned into a porpoise and dove over the side. Because he had seen that the evil had swung too far. Because at first he was like, well, the land's pretty much good. I mean, there's goblins and whatnot, but it was all that. And then eventually he realized, like I said, he was like, nope, the evil's gone too far. And yeah, they all died. They all but one died.
We must return balance to the force.
Exactly.
Well, that gets into like the weirdness of neutral. Is neutral the world has to be balanced, or is neutral the ultimate moral relativist?
Right.
I mean, are they really like, if there's some evil, we need to do some good. If there's good, we should balance it by doing bad things? Or are they just so detached from the concept of good and bad that they kind of they ride that like utilitarian view of like, well, this is neither good nor evil, but it's getting the job done.
Right. Or I will do neither. I will exist, and I do not whatever he does. The kind of a I hate to put this on anyone, but kind of like a Taoist sort of thing where this is on me. I do me, you do you, and we're okay with that.
Well, I don't think that's. I mean, it's in line with what I understand of that philosophy and religion. So that seems to be seems safe. Safe to say that. Which is always like, it gets into more of the challenges of alignment. Always seems to be in that, like, that category, especially when someone says, well, this is what I should be doing. It's my alignment. Well, that's tricky because...
Yeah. And it's one of those where I have heard arguments that in the next edition, they'll take it out. And I said, well, the reason it's in 5th is because it's part of D&D. There is good and evil. It exists. There are gods who are good, and there are gods who are evil, and there is magic, and there is, this is a fantasy world. Some of other game systems I've played in, there's more of a instead of alignments, they use morality. Yep. And so that plays in better. And some game systems actually have mechanics that depend on it. I mean, sure, old school paladin, lawful good, do a bad thing, oh, you're no longer a paladin, blah blah blah, that kind of thing. But I've seen some systems out there where it's preacher gotta preach. You get spell points by spreading the word and doing things that for your god is how you get your spell energy.
It takes the divine magic to a real extreme, because I've always taken the idea that divine casters do get it from some higher power, some providence allows them to warp reality and do magic, because reality is defined by whatever that providence is. Whereas the arcane casters are the ones that have figured out how to manipulate reality. Right. The way that kind of runs. But when you start getting into that idea, though, where it's like you can't do your divine magic if the god doesn't really, really like you, that really creates that mechanical incentive. I'm hoping, what I would love to see on this front is that they don't get rid of the alignment. They just stop making it the corners. Because if you think about the alignment like table, where you've got lawful good up here and chaotic good, and kind of goes down and around, it seems like people want to sit at a vertex. And there's so many places you could say, well, here's kind of where your dot, like they put the box down, say put your dot on the box. Right. Maybe you're not like hardcore lawful good, you're like, and you're not quite lawful neutral, because lawful neutral is a little bit. I mean, here's what I've always used for the lawfuls. A town is besieged by a plague. The party agrees, they swear an oath, they will not rest until they have cured the plague. And then they discover the cause of the plague is an innocent child who's been infected. Right. The lawful good character says, well, we must quest to find the cure. To save this girl from this plague and then end it. Lawful neutral one says, we signed a contract. We killed the kid. Yeah. Lawful evil says, I'm worried about her whole family. But so maybe you're not like lawful neutral, but you're not hardcore lawful good. So you're like down a bit. Because I think that would give more freedom within that framework. Yeah. To let everybody kind of go, okay, I'm kind of here-ish, and maybe you can move your dot from time to time,
like a Venn diagram. There are games too that give you experience for playing your alignment, but those are very specific. You do these things. If you do this, you get an experience point because you have chosen this alignment. You put yourself in harm's way at some point. Okay, bam. You're good. You chose a good alignment. You put yourself in harm's way. You get an XP. You're chaotic good. You buck the establishment or do something that's right for someone who is oppressed or downtrodden. You get an experience point. You steal from you steal candy from babies. Chaotic evil. Yes. Okay. You get an experience point. You manipulate someone into doing an act that is evil. Lawful evil, experience point.
And I think of all those, I really liked White Wolf's. You get willpower points for playing your character, because it gave you an incentive. But it didn't punish you terribly. Like, you didn't fall behind the party if you deviated. The party also kind of advanced the same with skills. You just were always a little bit low on willpower. because you really weren't being true to yourself.
Right.
You have to be true to yourself to get your willpower back, and that was the kind of thing that they did a good job with. Did you, when we were doing Ravenloft stuff, did you ever read I, Strahd, the novel?
Nope.
Oh, okay.
Nope.
Your whole view of Strahd changes when you hear his story from his point of view. It's a real fascinating read.
Nice.
Speaking of goods and evils, is that one of the things I love about Ravenloft is that when you do the deep dive into the lore behind Strahd, and I'm hoping they put a lot of it into this new release, you get a sense where he is not the bottom corner of lawful evil.
Yeah.
There's a lot of stuff about him, and I'm not going to throw any spoilers out, but there's just lots of little quirks where you're like, I'm not sure I would have made a different decision in his place, and I'm a decent person.
Yeah. Having played in the Ravenloft module and having been the character I was, yeah, it is very Bram Stoker's Dracula, where you're like, oh, okay, I get it. He's an ass, but this is the reason he's an ass, and he's being punished for being that ass. But he's real. Yeah.
Sort of.
Yeah. So,
yeah,
if you're going to be punished, it's good to be the king of the prison. I'm just gonna say.
That works too.
You want to be kingpin when you go to Rikers Island.
Not thug number 75 who doesn't even have his name in the credits. You're just listed as thug.
Yeah, he's got a tattoo. It says hench for life on his belly. It's
But yeah, it'll be interesting to see what they do with that, because there's so many. Ravenloft has got such a neat history with both the Dungeons and Dragons, but just as a story. And it's interesting too. We were talking about back when we were talking about games we wanted to see brought up into 5th edition and looked at more. We talked about expanding the Ravenloft setting,
right?
As one of the things we thought. I'm still worried that we haven't seen the Dragonlance stuff yet.
Right. Yet, I don't know. See, we might. Yeah, I have to think that it's on. If we put this in the MCU framework, I imagine somewhere in the next 5-year plan, Dragonlance will show up. I think we should probably again now I see the violence inherent in the system. No, I see the pattern that the UA. I'm going to start watching the UA stuff again, because the UA stuff is usually okay, so we've got a framework for this. Let's roll this out and see how it does.
How many players say they're using it in their games?
Yeah. And I mean, I was there every Sunday. I was like, bam, what's the new UA? Look at it. Okay, cool.
Here's my theory. We're not at the end of 5th edition yet, but we can see 5th edition sunset. When you really look at their cycle for publishing with 4th edition, and thinking about, like, I remember when 4th edition launched, I remember, for example, having LB come over with some friends to play 4th edition as okay, this is the new thing, let's see what happens. I remember arguments on the D&D forums about 3.5 versus 4. So it's not that far. So my thinking is, with knowing that Sunset is out there and knowing that they're just finally resolving their legal issues with Weiss and Hickman, I can't shake the idea that 6th edition is going to launch with Dragonlance stuff ready to go. They're going to sit on this until 6th edition. Plus, it'll help ease the release of 6th.
Right.
Because I think it'll hook so many people that have been following the story.
Right.
And feeling some of the frustration that the Hickman and Weiss have to be feeling.
Right.
And then there's that childhood, we're all in our 40s now. And we used to have the teachers take away our Dragonlance novels because we were reading them in class in middle school. So, we are primed to throw money at it.
Yeah.
There's not much better hook for a new edition release.
Yeah.
I mean, the only thing more beloved is Ravenloft.
Yeah, and so you think that that will be like, this was Faerun, things like D&D Beyond, where it, you know, came out in Eberron. So you think the launch platform, excuse me, will be Dragonlance for 6th edition, or do you think that it'll just be supplements?
I think it'll be the first supplement. It'll be, here's your starter set for 6th edition.
Yeah.
And in 2 months, once you've got the rule system down, because we've changed a few things, here's Dragonlance. And we'll tell you it's coming in the back cover of the new player's handbook, coming in March.
Right. The starter set will come with a 1-page glossy that's like,
Yup. That's my prediction. Just because I can't imagine that they're going to. I mean, the fact that they went to Ravenloft now, as they're like, hey, let's do another expansion book, and Ravenloft is already, we have the Curse of Strahd, we have Curse of Strahd revamped, we have the big box coffin set.
Right.
They don't really need more Ravenloft stuff.
Yeah.
I feel like they're making a point of avoiding teasing much.
And they can start the cycle over, but in a different pattern. So when 6 releases, they can always, like I said, start the pattern over, and instead of, Faerun, like you said, they can be like, oh, the base setting is Faerun, but bam, hit you with Dragonlance, and then like 3 books in, like 2 years later or 3 books in, then they'll be like, well, here's now 6th edition Ravenloft, and then and just start it over, where the stuff that worked for 5th, they'll redo for 6th.
The other prediction I would like to see, but I don't think this is a want, but it's not a true prediction, is I would just like a one-time $1,200 everything purchase at the launch of 6th edition.
Right.
Like, just here's my money.
Yep.
Just send me everything as it comes out.
Yeah. Yep.
Just let's save each other a lot of headache. A lot of stress. I won't follow any release dates. I'll just watch the mail. And then if one day there's, oh, look, they re-released Ravenloft for 6th edition. I didn't know that was coming.
Right. Yeah, oh my God, what was it? Star Citizen. If you know anything about this game, Star Citizen, it is supposedly going to be the greatest sci-fi space adventure role-play game ever made.
Mm-hmm.
And they literally have a buy-in that is $10,000. You buy in at $10,000, you get every ship they ever make and ever will make forever.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, there's a bunch of zeros there. there's a bunch of zeros there,
Well, I remember, what was it? Lord of the Rings Online offered something like that, a lifetime membership for something like $1,200.
Yeah.
When it first launched, it's like, this, you'll be a member forever. You'll never have to pay a penny for it. Yeah. And it's like, that price point is insane.
Yeah. Yep.
But that was also back when I was like balking at spending $15 per month on an MMO over 8.
Yes.
Ultima Online is only $8 a month. I don't know why I'd pay $15 for this World of Warcraft crap.
$5.99. Whoa. And it went to 7.
Yeah. Although I laugh, it's like Netflix is going up to 15 a month. I'm like, Warcraft has been charging that for years.
Yep.
And we all consider it a great purchase.
Mm-hmm.
So, and you have to do stuff with it. You don't get to just sit.
Right.
So, I mean, people will pay a lot for a lot, especially for that lifetime membership.
I have 4 streaming services and I still pay less than cable.
We're not there yet, but we're creeping up.
Yeah.
We're creeping up fast.
Yeah. I literally called Tavern Sparrow and was like, hey, what do we pay for Prime right now, streaming service, or Hulu, or whatever it was? And would it be more expensive to jump to premium, or for me to pay $15 a month for the next 6 months.
Yep.
I was going to buy seasons of a show, and it ended up being like, it was like we're paying like 15, and it would have been like 65 to have the premium thing, and I'm like, or I can pay $13 a month or whatever it is for each season that I'm gonna watch, and then I own those seasons and I can watch them anytime. It just
I remember that calculus for I don't remember what it was when we switched to streaming. Was we can keep watching Big Bang Theory, but we have to buy the episode or buy the seasons a la carte because they were new shows.
Yeah.
And they've even, most of the companies have figured out people like us were doing that, and like, you can't do that now. Now it's exclusive to our streaming service. And I feel bad because there's a lot of shows we haven't followed because it's like, I just don't want to add another streaming service.
Yeah. Or like I said, now we're finding they take those premium shows and they bump them up to the next level. And I'm like, I'm sorry, I guess no, I won't do that. But that's that.
We did not talk anything about lousy DMs. And it's almost 6:30, and I gotta get home to dinner because it's my wife's birthday today.
Oh, well, many happy returns of the day.
I will pass them on to her. We might be back on tonight for a birthday live stream.
Oh, nice.
Maybe. She plays Red Dead Online, and we've been meaning to play together. It's up to her if we're going to share her birthday with the world or not.
Right.
If she just wants to be the two of us riding the range, that's what we'll do. If she wants to bring the world with us, we will bring the world with us. That's at her discretion.
160 acres of land. All those old cowboy songs. I had a workmate who used to play all those old cowboy songs in our lab, like on speaker system. I rigged a speaker system in the lab, and then it would play like really loud. like I said, all those cowboy jams. Makes me laugh.
Yeah. But I think we're going to wind down the show at this point.
All right.
Wish everybody well. We will be back next week where we probably will be talking about bad DMs. Because there was that meme we saw. So here's the teaser for last week. This meme came down my pipeline. It seemed like a great topic, which was the gist of it is the DM's word is law. You do not argue with the DM. Get your own table. And it'll be interesting. And then it's with, oh yeah, if you don't like your DM, you can always hire someone else. And there's so much in there to talk about.
Yes.
And I really can't wait to get in and dig. But with the breaking news about the Ravenloft expansion, it's like we really gotta cover this. This is like the topic of the day, and it's so hard not to talk about it.
Oh, it was awesome. I'm glad we did.
So where are we going to see you next?
You will see me on Thursday evening at 8:30 EST over on Indoor Adventures channel. It is my only role play show now. I'm down to just the one streaming D&D show a week, and you can see me over there. And I can't say much about it because it's a masks, and this is the Origins episode. This will be the first episode of the campaign. So come see. I get to use my superhero voice, and I adore that. So
superhero voice. That's a good time.
Onward,
Well, I'll be back for sure Thursday night. Not Thursday night. Well, probably Thursday. For sure Friday night. My next scheduled stream is Friday night for some light gaming, and then Sunday night we pick up with our D&D game, and we get to see where that's going to go. So that should be a good time. If you're following us if you're listening to this as a podcast, thank you for downloading. Please leave a review wherever you found it so it can be more easily found if you watch this on YouTube. You know the drill. Like, subscribe, leave a comment. Click. If you found us on YouTube, you probably know how to work it. Please click the button so more people can. And if you want to be part of the live show, we do record on Tuesdays around 5 p.m. Eastern time. We do it on twitch.tv/Lantern Noir. And you're always welcome to become part of the conversation. We do not shy away from audience questions or comments. Any closing thoughts, my dear friend, before we hop in the cars and make sure we can safely drive home from happy hour?
After I had bourbon in plastic bottle today. Last words, get out there, game, and be nice to each other. Wear your mask out
Yeah,
in public.
indeed. Get out there, game, wear your mask. And if you can do all those things, hopefully you and those you care about can stay safe.